Just a recap on what the US soccer lawyers said in court as part of this gender discrimination lawsuit on Monday. The women do not perform equal work requiring equal skill and effort to the men because the overall soccer playing ability required to compete at the senior men's level is materially influenced by the level of certain physical attributes such as speed and strength. An appalling misstep from the US soccer lawyers. Carlos Cordeiro, US soccer president, enduring a firestorm and in fact resigning just late last night, ending just over 2 years in charge. Of course, the US was selected to host the 2026 World Cup with Canada and Mexico. He hired Greg Berhalter on the men's side. He oversaw the women winning the World Cup in 2019, but also the start of the lawsuit back in March of 2019. And now this. We're joined by Julie Foudy and Herculez Gomez to discuss this. Jules, let's start with you, because you were on the show just 24 hours ago saying you didn't think Carlos Cordeiro could survive this, and indeed, just a few hours later, he did resign. Your reaction?
There was absolutely no path forward for him. I mean, a misstep of this magnitude, Adrian, is... Still today, I'm processing it and I'm going, again, who would think this is a great scenario for them, a great approach, a great argument, a legal argument? And I tell you who else is going to come down with a lot of heat is Lydia Walke, who's their general counsel, who was in charge of this argument, a woman. And how do you not see, I don't care if you're blue in the face as a lawyer arguing that this is a great legal argument, how do you not see the repercussions of this with sponsors, with fans, with public sentiment? Because in the end, even if you do win a trial, then you've lost the war, though, haven't you?
Herc, Carlos Cordeiro said he hadn't ever even reviewed these legal documents, these particular legal arguments that his lawyers were going to make.
The arrogance and ignorance here is outstanding. It's mind-blowing. They only really took action when there was sponsorship money that they were afraid was going to be taken away. When Volkswagen, when Budweiser, when all these companies started speaking up, that's when they took action. Now listen, Carlos Cordeiro didn't do this by himself. And let me read this right here. USSF bylaw 411. The board shall have all governance, supervisory, and administrative authority of the federation. He has 1 of 15 votes. This goes much more deeper than Carlos Cordeiro. Now, they're being sued by the U.S. women, but they're also being sued by Relevant Sports, Hope Solo, the NASL, and their own foundation. The stupidity that runs across U.S. soccer these days, and for what has been probably the last 4 or 5 years, I repeat, mind-blowing. The lack of representation within the federation, how they treat our women. Let's not even get into the deplorable comments that came out in this litigation. It's just one after the other. I don't know how, besides cleaning house, you can fix this.
Also have Gab Marcotti with us. Want to bring him on board. Gab, how is the world viewing this from outside looking in on US soccer?
Well, I think, in terms of the world, obviously they're slightly more preoccupied with other things right now than Carlos Cordeiro. Yes. However, in terms of the football community, and obviously the issue of equal pay for national team players is something that a lot of different federations are looking at. I actually spoke today to somebody at a football association that's going to be facing similar challenges, and obviously they're not somebody who would be thrilled, and right now they do not provide equal pay for their women's team. They know it's something they're going to have to face, but they made the point, it's such a huge issue in the United States. Why would you come up with such a horrendous argument? I think Julie absolutely nailed it, that, even if you were to win this, and, who knows, lawyers, snakes, who knows, they might have won this, but they would have lost a broader war with that kind of argument. And it is such a dereliction of duty that the people at the top, as Herc said, didn't pay enough attention to this and say, hey guys, when we go into court with this argument that everybody's talking about, what's our argument going to be? Is it just going to be that women are genetically inferior and therefore we're going to pay them less money? Is this what we're going to argue? Okay, I just find that absolutely staggering.
Guys, it's been a terrible 3 or 4 years. It's hard to think of a club, a body, or an organisation in our sport that's had a worse 3 or 4 years than the US Soccer Federation.
Yes. Now, you're talking to guys here from Trinidad and Tobago and Venezuela whose federations, let me tell you, are all over the shop, including the fact that former president of my federation was directly involved in the FIFA scandal. And so, let's just say that we have seen a lot of things. You don't expect it to happen in the United States of America. When it happens in Venezuela, when it happens in Trinidad and Tobago, and I'm speaking on behalf of Shaka here, you kind of go, well, that's the sort of way that we do things around here. We cut corners over there, we cut corners over there, and in the end, we get to an end result that some people are happy with, and those that are not happy with it, we pay them off and they go away. It's in our culture, and I cannot apologize for that enough. That's who we are, and you see it time and time again. But you don't expect it here. You don't expect that sort of argument would be made in court. You don't expect that there isn't a direct path and a direction, a clear direction and identity as to what is it that this federation wants to do with both their programs, the men's program and the women's program. And in the end, just as a basic argument of somebody who's not involved with this, I'm not involved with it, I have no horse in this race, and I can tell you this much. These women are the best at what they do in the world. In the world. How can they not be compensated as such? Now, if I'm involved with a game, right? And I can give that argument. The person who's not even involved with the game, you give them that argument in the court of public opinion, and there is no chance that U.S. Soccer Federation would in any way win that in that court, or would win it in the court of common sense.
Julie, Carlos Cordeiro was supposed to be an agent of change, wasn't he, when he came to power just over 2 years ago? Not too much change, I don't think, in his stewardship. There's still that culture of arrogance that Herc was talking about. Where do they go from here? How do things change? How do things get better for US soccer?
Yeah. I mean, the challenge is they have no leadership, as we've seen, right? You're relying for your leadership to come from a volunteer position in Carlos Cordeiro as the president, which is why I take issue with the fact that the presidential position is a volunteer position. And they took forever, and they're still searching. They're on their second search for a CEO to lead the organization. So there's been this vacuum of leadership that has existed there. And the way forward is, one, getting a great CEO who I pray daily has good instincts, who recognizes when this legal argument is a terrible one and would say, what are we doing here? And apparently that's supposed to be imminent, that announcement. But we've heard that before, so I'm not sure I trust that entirely. And I hope someone, the silver lining in all of this is Cindy Parlow-Cone, who is a player. She's the vice president, who's now the acting president when Carlos resigned. She's a player I played with for many years. She is fantastic as a human being and would give her left arm and right leg, or both legs, for this federation and for it to be successful. And she gets what the players have been through. She's lived it, right? So if anyone can actually get them to the table, I have hope that Cindy can play that role. But it's a tall task, given how blundered they've done everything so far. To step into this and say, I can fix it, is hard because it's so messy right now.
And how do you see it going from this point, Julie, with Cindy Cohen at the helm, as you say, possible trial date on May the 5th?
There is a possible trial date on May the 5th. Part of this angst from Carlos Cordeiro was he realized, we should get to the table and settle this. That was an angst that came way too late. He should have been angsting about this in September and October, right? There should have been some urgency back in the fall. But I will say the first thing I would do is reassess Carlos's last move when he issued that apology letter live to us on air during that She Believes Cup game against Japan. He said he has fired the law firm that put out this 2,600-page brief, and they've brought back in Latham and Watkins. Well, Latham and Watkins, although they are a world-renowned global law firm, right? They were the ones that actually sat across the table from this women's national team and all the players in 2016 and that super contentious battle. And the players were irked because the same type of messaging was coming back at them. You're inferior. You don't draw enough. There's not enough money. FIFA doesn't pay enough, right? So you've now gone to bringing back that exact same law firm that the players do not like. I don't get it again. It's a bad decision.
Yeah, another one. Herc, just briefly to sum things up, you've experienced the US Soccer Federation as a player and now as a journalist too. How do things get better?
I don't know if they can get better. I'd love to sit here and take Julie's word about the vice president, now president, Cindy Parlow-Cone, with a grain of salt, because she was the vice president when this was put out there, and she was part of the governing board, the board of directors that should have approved this. So it happened right under her nose. Why are we to suspect that it should be any different now? The board of directors is directly responsible for what's going on right now. Listen, Carlos Cordeiro is the fall guy, and to me that says everything. That screams everything. I really feel there needs to be, if we're talking about leadership, a clean house.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN+.